Newshour at 9. Co-presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Co-powered by QO and Jack Warren.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It was day 2 of Prime Minister Modi's Sansad strike. Under attack from the opposition over various issues inside and outside the parliament, the Prime Minister today turned the tables on his critics. In what can be easily termed as a huge dare ahead of the 2024 elections, the Prime Minister decided to go whole hog in taking the opposition on. His first dare was that he alone was enough for the entire opposition, and he said that because the opposition raised slogans, threw a straight and said, "Ek akela, sab par bhari," and that set the tone for the Prime Minister's sharpest attack on the opposition. Listen in to what the Prime Minister said tonight in the Rajya Sabha.
और आदरणीय सभापति जी, देश देख रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है। अरे नारे बोलने के लिए भी उनको बदल करना पड़ता है। जो भी ये बोलता है, घंटे भर से आवाज की जवाब देना। आदरणीय सभापति जी, एक कन्विक्शन के कारण चला हूं, देश के लिए जीता हूं, देश के लिए कुछ करने के लिए निकला हुआ हूं, और इसलिए ये राजनीतिक खेल खेलने वाले लोग, उनके अंदर वो हौसला नहीं है, वो ढूंढ रहे हैं, बचने का रास्ता खोज रहे हैं।
Well, he set the record straight, and after putting out the rap against the Congress, the Prime Minister rained fire on the grand old party. He went on to actually tell them the record of his own government and what the Congress had done. The Prime Minister said that the Congress had plunged this country into darkness, listing the failures of the Congress over the years. The Prime Minister said that voters of this country were betrayed because the Congress policies were centered around a parivar and not the people of India. Listen in to this direct attack made by the Prime Minister.
फिलहाल जो भी जिसके पास था उसने दिया उछाल। और अच्छा ही है, जितना कीचड़ उछालोगे कमल उतना ही ज्यादा खिलेगा।
Not just this, the Prime Minister made a sharp attack on the Congress, who have questioned the Prime Minister and his democratic government by citing the example of the misuse of Article 356 under the Congress regime, especially by Indira Gandhi, the longest serving Prime Minister from the Congress, who had used Article 356 over 50 times in the 2 tenures she had as Prime Minister. Listen in.
जो लोग आज विपक्ष में बैठे हैं, उन्होंने तो राज्यों के अधिकारों की धज्जियां उड़ा दी। जरा मैं कच्चा चिट्ठा खोलना चाहता हूं। जरा इतिहास उठा करके देख लीजिए, वो कौन पार्टी थी, वो लोग कौन सत्ता में बैठे थे जिन्होंने आर्टिकल 356 का सबसे ज्यादा दुरुपयोग किया।
taken all the schemes to the last person in the queue, talking about 100% of coverage so that saturation and not just demonstration for tokenism. That was his government's mantra. Listen in.
आजादी के अमृत काल में एक बहुत बड़ा हिम्मत भरा कदम उठाया और वो रास्ता हमने चुना है सैचुरेशन का। हर योजना के जो लाभार्थी हैं 100% लाभ कैसे पहुंचे, 100% लाभार्थियों को लाभ पहुंचे, बिना रोक टोक के लाभ पहुंचे। और मैं कहता हूं, अगर सच्चा पंथ निरपेक्षता है तो यही है, सच्चा सेक्युलरिज्म है तो यही है। और सरकार उस राह पर बड़ी ईमानदारी के साथ चल पड़ी है।
Even as the Prime Minister gave the true definition of secularism in the form of Jan Seva, he listed the report card of his government and the Badhta Bharat. Today, there is water connections in 11 crore homes, he said. 48 crore Jan Dhan Yojana accounts have been opened across the nation. 31% houses under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana have been allotted in 25 minority-dominated areas. 25 crore families have benefited from LPG connections and 37% of minorities have benefited from the Ujjwala Yojana. But despite this report card, the opposition continued the same salvo and said Modi Adani bhai bhai, both inside and outside the Rajya Sabha today.
तो शुरू से लेकर अंत तक नारे हम लोगों ने एक ही लगाए कि मोदी अडानी भाई भाई, देश बेच के खाई मलाई। आज देश के संसाधनों को एक आदमी के हवाले आपने कर दिया, तो हम जेपीसी की मांग कर रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी उसको पूरी करें हमारी मांग। या कोई कुश्ती लड़नी है, दंगल लड़ना है क्या उनसे? वो सब पे भारी है, सबको पटक देंगे, बड़े पहलवान हैं। ये क्या बात है भाई, ये क्या बात है? आपसे जेपीसी की मांग की जा रही है भ्रष्टाचार के एक मामले में। आप कह रहे हैं हम भारी हैं, हम सबको पटक देंगे। अरे भाई, कुश्ती थोड़ी हो रही है, आप प्रधानमंत्री हो यार देश के। ये क्या बात है?
क्या प्रधानमंत्री को ये शोभा देता है कि संपूर्ण विपक्ष 10 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा का जो घोटाला कहा जा रहा है उसकी जांच ना कराएं जेपीसी से और एक शब्द भी उस पर ना बोले? तो निश्चित रूप से जब इतना बड़े मुद्दे पे देश लुटता रहे तो विपक्ष खामोशी के साथ बैठकर इनका भाषण नहीं सुने। तो किसी भी चौराहे पे कोई नेता बोल देता है, क्या ये राज्यसभा में बोलने लायक भाषण था? मैं अकेला सब पर भारी, मुझे प्रधानमंत्री पद की गरिमा के अनुरूप नहीं लगा।
He thinks Modi है तो मुमकिन है, but unfortunately it's not so. The people of Bengal has given him the lesson in 2021 election. We are confident, we are hopeful. People of our country will give him a lesson in 2024 election.
So the legitimate question we're asking on the news are, has Prime Minister Modi had the last word? That's the question and that's the debate. Modi sab pe bhari dare. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Of the Trinamool Congress. And my first question goes to Dr. Sanjay Jha. Dr. Sanjay Jha, ek akela sab pe bhari, because the entire opposition actually has been trying to target the Prime Minister. And it's been the same, not just in 2014 or 2019, it's been on since 2002. Tonight, has he silenced his critics? Or is the Congress party going to use the same pattern that they used in 2019 and failed? Will the same, shoot and scoot, Kichad Uchhalo, as the Prime Minister said, strategy go on for the opposition?
Navika, first and foremost, good evening to you and the panelists and to the viewers of your program. I was very disappointed for the second day from the Prime Minister. Yesterday, I could imagine he could take the excuse that he was addressing the president's address. Fair enough. And you even expunged Rahul Gandhi's comments. Let's even accept that, although I think that's a very anti-democratic exhibition, technically correct maybe. But today, to still avoid addressing the issue of Gautam Adani, I think tells me that the Prime Minister is scared, the Prime Minister is nervous. It is palpable. Now, let me tell you, we are all adults here, we all know. This is an old trick. When you're cornered, then aggression becomes the best form of defense. What I watched him do today was like an election campaign in Agra, in Maharashtra, in Bengal. This is the way all politicians talk. A lot of dialogue bazi, Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan dialogues are out there in the open. Theatrics, histrionics, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't cut any ice, Navika, because the fact is that Mr. Adani is the real story that India will have to bite sooner than later. Mr. Narendra Modi, if he thinks, and GVL is a friend, I'm sure he will convey it to his topmost leader and India's Prime Minister. I think India is watching Mr. Modi very closely. I agree that the BJP will be very happy. The right-wing trolls will be delighted that Mr. Modi attacked the Gandhi family, ridiculed the Congress. That's all in place. Forget it. That's a typical political rhetoric that we are all conditioned to. He did not speak a word on Gautam Adani. Someone who today is, by the way, Navika, let me tell you, his debt is 1.25% of India's economy. You're talking about a man, the blue-eyed boy of Mr. Modi. Everyone knows his mammoth riches in the last 3 years happened because he had the benediction of the Prime Minister. We all know that no industrialist in the history of the world would have got the kind of contracts that he's got. Majority of his, by the way, his acquisitions have happened not because he bought them from the start. He hasn't made them, by the way. He's purchased companies. He's got debt. And the acquisition is that his share prices have all been manipulated. He used that as a collateral to raise bank money and buy companies. And who facilitated him? Mr. Modi's government. And in this case, Mr. Modi directly. I think the opposition, Navika, is completely justified in saying, cut out the histrionics, cut out your theatrics, cut out this rhetoric. He can feel like a hero. He can even, for all I care, win a few elections here and there. But his legacy is being written because he dodged it. A true leader, Navika, is one that when he's faced with a crisis, he doesn't come and say, I won 2 elections, therefore whatever I do, I have been given the legal carte blanche or the moral carte blanche to do what I like. It's not true. Because the truth is today he insulted the millions of voters of India who voted Congress for 10 times in 17 general elections. Is Mr. Modi trying to say that all those voters are to be insulted today? They made the wrong choice. If Congress was wrong, would they have won 10 general elections?
Well,
I mean, what is he talking here? Does Mr. Modi even know democracy? Does he know the political history of a great country? I mean, he even insults you, my dear friend, because if Modi is equal to BJP, then if Adani cracks a Modi so-called brand, then BJP will be history in 2024, I hope even earlier.
Well, Sanjay Jha, of course, you've raised a zillion questions and I'll invite GVL Narsimha Rao to respond to each one of them. But there's just one point that I want to ask you. You said that you could understand that the Prime Minister did not answer some questions because he was responding to the President's speech in Lok Sabha yesterday. But he was doing the same thing in Rajya Sabha today. So you agreed with the Prime Minister's stance yesterday. You don't agree with the same stance because the topic of discussion and reply in the Rajya Sabha was the same as the Lok Sabha. Now, I don't understand your different yardsticks for both those days, but the other questions that you've raised, GVL Narsimha Rao, over to you. Answer those.
Good evening to you and all the panelists, Navika, and all the viewers. I can see from Sanjay's comments, the opposition is completely frustrated. They thought they could throw muck at the Prime Minister, at the government, and they in the hope that something will stick. But the kind of not only aggression, the kind of facts that have been put out, how in 10 years this government has done, how it has achieved miraculous development that was not possible, that was never even conceived by the Congress government. The Congress is exposed I think one major, I would call it even a swipe at the Gandhis today, is they have survived in politics only because they borrowed the name of Gandhi. The scheduled tribes, a large number of such people think these are children of Mahatma Gandhi or grandchildren of Mahatma Gandhi. You have duped an entire nation and you are talking about democracy. A lot of people, when you go abroad, they think Sonia Gandhi is some daughter-in-law or granddaughter-in-law of Mahatma Gandhi. This is how they have duped, they have done a stealing of a brand. The Gandhi name was stolen by the family and used for their political uprising. Now coming to your question, the Prime Minister was supremely confident, not just confident. People of the country know that he has no brother-in-laws to look after. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have any number of foreign friends like Christian Michel. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to entertain anybody. And when he leaves the office of Prime Minister, whenever he chooses to, because this country will never. I'm making an assertion. This country will never want to lose a leader like Prime Minister Modi. He will be in power. He will be Prime Minister as long as he chooses to. And the day when he retires, whenever in future, he will go home with a pair of clothes and nothing else. Unlike your families, unlike your leader, who will be all the time on laptop only to know how much money is parked where. I think they've turned politics into a corrupt deal. They've turned it into a corrupt business, not for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So whatever allegations you make, people of the country know this will simply not wash with them, number one. Number two, you're asking us to comment on Adani. The discussion is not about Adani. You have completely diverted the discussion. There have been attempts to really have a separate debate on this, but the chairman of Rajya Sabha, as per rules, did not allow a discussion on this. So in the course of discussion on the budget, there could have been some references to the corporate giants, but they have used the wrong occasion, which was actually a motion of thanks to the address by the President of India. They have simply, their entire speeches should have been expunged according to me. Only a few lines have been expunged because the chairman, obviously the presiding officers, they employ they use very flexible rules. And as far as your allegation that BJP has been insulted, no Sanjay. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the tallest leader of the BJP, and we won 2019 election and 2014 election with him in the helm and with him as the main mascot of the campaign. He is the leader that the country, 130 crore people have reposed their faith in. So it was almost like a presidential election where they voted for BJP and they voted for Prime Minister Modi, unlike Rahul Gandhi, who brings the Congress down.
Sanjay Jha, if you're so worried about the insult to the BJP, then maybe you should have been worried when Rahul Gandhi tore the ordinance of a sitting government and a Prime Minister when the Prime Minister was travelling abroad. So, you know, the Congress trying to give those lessons to the BJP is slightly rich, and when you talk about democracy and give lessons on democracy to the BJP, slightly rich again, because democracy with the 356, can I tell you how many times Article 356 was used? 8 times by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, 50 times by Indira Gandhi, at least 11 times also used by PM Narendra Rao, and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi 6 times. So, you know, killing of democracy and democratic standards. Well, the Congress, just take a deep breath, relax while I get in. Trinamool Congress's Dr. Shashi Panja. Dr. Shashi Panja, the issue is also about how much can you oppose the Prime Minister when he is making a statement? For 83 minutes, you know, today everybody in the opposition has taken umbrage to his line, "Ek akela kitno par bhari." The fact is, for 83 minutes, the opposition took turns to continue to raise slogans, create hangama in Rajya Sabha. And this one man who just happens to be coincidentally a man who's been chosen by this country to be the Prime Minister of this country. He was speaking for 83 minutes, but not 1 minute of silence was given to him. And you expect that he should be, showering praises and rose petals on the opposition. Have we completely lost sense of proportion of how to conduct ourselves in Parliament? If you want answers, and it's your right to raise questions, if you want answers, I'm sure after the, thanking the President for her speech after this motion, you could still have pressed for another debate on Adani. But why make a spectacle out of this one?
Good evening, Navika ji, and good evening to all my senior colleagues who are there. Navika ji, it's very relevant, Prime Minister Modi today mentioned that trust of crores of people is my protective shield. It is that very crores of people who are looking an answer about their future, about their savings in LIC and SBI. One. Second, it wouldn't have taken these 83 minutes of, sloganeering if Prime Minister just spoke 2 minutes on the burning issue. It is definitely a burning issue. But today it was again a demonstration of his chappan inch, which is very unfortunate. Navika ji, you were just mentioning that you could have put up your notices for a debate and all that. Let me give you a small thing which I just added. From the budget session in 2020 to the winter session last year, it was the 8th time that the Rajya Sabha was curtailed before the scheduled date for adjournment. In the last 6 years, every single notice given by the opposition to discuss an urgent national issue was outright rejected. In the last 7 sessions of the Parliament, the houses have been adjourned on an average 5 days prior to scheduled date. Since 2014, Rajya Sabha has rejected several hundred notices under Rule 267 on subjects ranging from Rafale, from GST, from Pegasus, from farmers' protests. So this is the history. And moreover, there is also a curve on your dictionary, which you will use. So there is a lot of words which you cannot use, like snoopgate and incompetency and hypocrisy and all that. Having said that, speakers from the opposition party who have been speaking since yesterday were constantly heckled by the treasury benches. That also should be noted. And lastly, today 60 to 70 leaders from the opposition were in the well. Total censorship. So what is it? Why is he being evasive? Just 2 lines and 2 minutes on the issue. What is the opposition wanting? Some were wanting a JPC. Some Trinamool Congress was asking for a Supreme Court regulated, monitoring of the case itself on this Adani. Is it too unjust to ask for this? That's all. And everybody heard him for 1.5 hours in Lok Sabha. So there was an expectancy today that he would speak upon the burning issue, but he didn't. So we cannot continue to live in the past, keep digging up the past, not live in the present and talk about Amrit Kal all the time. It's total oblivion. When are we going to talk the present in Parliament, such an important Parliament platform?
Okay, respond, GVL Narsimha Rao.
Navika, I think it's either the minister is uninformed or deliberately obfuscating facts.
There you go.
There have been notices for short duration discussions which have been accepted in the last 2 sessions. I think I was present in those in Rajya Sabha. I can tell you in Rajya Sabha in the last session there was a debate on climate change which the opposition wanted, and prior to that there was a 2 or 3 hour long debate on COVID, on the impact of COVID, because these debates have happened with the opposition seeking such debates. So, and the Congress party and some opposition parties boycotted even such discussions because they are not serious about such issues. They only want to raise them, but when the chair accepts it, they run away. Then coming to the question about Prime Minister talking about this on some issue of your choice. Prime Minister was there to thank the address to the both houses of parliament by the President of India. And before he began, the ruckus began. I was present in the house today, and the ruckus began even before Prime Minister started his address. So how would you know what was he going to speak in the next 30 or 60 minutes? And you deliberately wanted to use it for propaganda and not to allow Prime Minister, not to allow the members to hear the Prime Minister, and not to allow the people of the country to hear Honorable Prime Minister.
Counter coming in from Dr. Shashi Panja. Dr. Shashi Panja coming in with the counter. What's your counter?
So do we draw a conclusion that the opposition leaders prevented you from talking on the burning issue? So are we to understand that the opposition leaders prevented the Prime Minister to speak on the burning issue? He spoke on a lot of issues. No, this is what is very dangerous. Let me speak. Please allow me to speak. Navika ji, please
allow her to raise her point of order and then you can come in. Yes, Dr. Panja.
No, this is what is dangerous for us. He says subjects of our choice. I mean, you're not bothered about the people of the country, their savings. You're not bothered. So this was a subject of our choice. It's not a subject of the people. This is the danger. This constant denial, this constant evasion. You are evading a very important issue which concerns the people. So where is the democracy? What democracy are you talking about? I mean, it is a constitutional demand to ask either for why the regulatory bodies are not functioning, why a JPC cannot be constituted, why a Supreme Court probe cannot be done. Is it too unconstitutional to ask?
But Dr. Shashi Panja, just to quote the facts, the regulators are working. There is a statement that SEBI has put out on the 4th of February. If you don't have it, we can send it to you. There is a statement made by LIC about its investments in these companies being less than 1%. Aren't there those statements there, GVL Narsimha Rao?
No, obviously. In fact, the Finance Minister, Honorable Finance Minister commented on this. She said regulators are looking into it and it's their mandate. And RBI has asked SBI, the financial institutions, to explain or to give complete clarity on this issue. The regulators are doing their job. You are only doing politics. And I want to ask the lady, what was Mamata Banerjee doing with such a businessman?
No, don't come to Mamata Banerjee. This is a huge scam.
Now you are raising issues for the last several years. What business? Can I have my say? I did not interject when you spoke.
This issue has been raised.
All right, Dr. Shashi Panja. Dr. Shashi Panja, please return the same courtesy to GVL Narsimha Rao. I'm coming to you, Ashutosh ji. No, what's your...
One line. If Gautam Adani was so bad, if he was so bad, why was Mamata Banerjee laying a red carpet for him? Why was he being solicited to make investments in Bengal? Is it that they have woken up only 2 days ago? Did they not know it?
So are you trying to say...
You're saying he's been making...
Are you trying to say that he is good enough and that is why your government and the Prime Minister has been travelling with him, and your government and the Prime Minister has been asking SBI to give him all the investment? All your government and Prime Minister cannot deny. You cannot constantly deny everything.
Let me now put some sense of perspective on this. You know, businessmen have travelled with every Prime Minister. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Sanjay Jha. Industry delegations have gone with Prime Ministers like Dr. Manmohan Singh. They have gone with the Prime Minister Modi, and they've been going on these international visits. So to pick that up sounds a little out of place at this point.
And Navika, a quick response.
Okay.
Businessmen used to travel with prime ministers, and in fact, in my opinion, it should be a transparent relationship. The problem here is the quid pro quo. The quid pro quo appears to be that Mr. Adani, and I think Rahul Gandhi was absolutely right in asking this question. Mr. Adani travels with Mr. Modi, and everywhere he goes, he happens to lodge the big bilateral government contracts. Let me tell you, the Sri Lanka issue was doused, but you had a very senior man from the Sri Lankan government openly saying that he was under pressure from the Prime Minister of India to give
No,
Mr.
he
Adani
denied that later. No,
I mean,
come on.
they have
No,
done a U-turn.
the retraction
That's a very
came.
serious issue.
There was a retraction.
Nobody is buying that retraction. By the way, GVL, you
you cannot lie, Sanjay.
No, nobody is buying that retraction, but the retraction is there on record.
Do
but
not
let
quote
me,
selectively. There was a retraction.
But let me get in Ashutosh ji. Sanjay Jha makes a statement and he says there appears to be a quid pro quo. My friend, my question, and I have a small doubt. Appears to be a quid pro quo. Either there is or there isn't. If there is, then is there some fact that has been put on the table? Because the Congress said that they will put, all the documents.
Just ask GVK. Has Mr. Adani given political funding to the BJP or not? Yes, no. Let him answer that.
But Adani has given political funding to you and your party, my friend, or your ex-party from which you are suspended.
Congress.
The Congress has also got Adani. So what is the quid pro quo, my friend? What is the quid pro quo? First tell me, because पहले आपके पास आया पैसे, बाद में बीजेपी के पास गया, तो बीजेपी से तो I will ask the question. But why don't you tell me what was the quid pro quo between Congress and Mr. Adani and his companies?
None at all. Mr. Adani has grown 85% in his wealth in the last 3 years. Look at the valuation of Mr. Adani since 2014 when Mr. Modi became Prime Minister. It's an absolutely stratospheric, preposterous absurdity that Mr. Adani became not just the richest man in India, the second richest man in the world.
All right,
in 3 years.
Dr. Sanjay Jha, then look at the share price. Look at the share prices of other companies like Meta, Uber. We can have that discussion. But Ashutosh ji, if there is something specific, and if there is some material facts that can be put on the table, shouldn't that have been the best way the opposition would have attacked the Prime Minister and the Modi government, rather than saying there appears to be a quid pro quo, oh, his valuation has gone up. Are these charges somewhere short of the kind of facts that are required?
Navika, when the BJP is in the government, they can't change the rules of the game. And unfortunately, they are changing the rules of the game because they are asking, you got the evidence, put it on the table. I want to ask, when the Bofors case exploded, did BJP produce evidences on the floor of the House? No, they did not. When the CWG flow came out, did they produce any evidences? No. On the 2G, no.
No, my friend, I'll stop you right there on CWG. The scam broke. No, 1 minute, Ashutosh. You mentioned CWG. The scam broke when I put out in public domain the letter written by the UK government to Indian government saying that the Queen's baton relay had a problem and money had changed hands and it needed to be investigated by India. My friend Ashutosh, in 2010, I was the one, and Times Now was the channel that actually brought it out. So let's not get ahead of ourselves in just poking holes in every story that you see.
Can I speak?
You can, but on facts.
It's 11 years. Yeah. What happened to the CWG? Any conviction? Anybody has been convicted?
Well, you've been a journalist. Is that our job?
Navika, let me speak now. So, see, on the floor of the House, when the chairman of the Rajya Sabha is saying anything written in the newspaper is not an evidence, and this is what happened on the other day when Mallikarjun Kharge said, "I am reading from the newspaper," and he said, "No, you have to authenticate." Now the issue is, this is what the evidentiary value of the media coverage is. I'm little worried today for the simple reason. Because, Navika, you being a great journalist, you said the Prime Minister chosen by the country. But my dear friend from the BJP has said, Modi ji will remain Prime Minister as long as he chooses. I was thinking for the since I grown up, but I have lived in democracy. Today I have been told by the BJP spokesperson, no, it is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. And only in dictatorship, the Prime Minister and the President...
It is democracy, he will continue to be elected forever.
Mr. GVL,
if you don't understand...
Don't be discourteous.
He will continue to get elected.
GVL Narsimha Rao, allow him to finish,
me
and then
speak.
I'll give you an opportunity. Allow Ashutosh ji to finish his point.
You are making the mockery of the Indian parliamentary system. You sitting here as a member of parliament. You are saying that Mr. Narendra Modi will remain the prime minister as long as he chooses. You should be ashamed of your statement. Are you
Yes,
a
people will
parliamentarian?
elect him
Are you a parliamentarian?
every single
Do you
time.
believe in democracy? Do you believe in parliamentary
Yes,
system? No, you do
because
not.
I have faith in
How
people.
dare you can say something,
I have
something
faith
like
in
this?
the leadership
How
of the
dare you
Prime
can say
Minister.
something like this? That shows.
He will
how
get
the
elected,
BJP
man.
wants to
You
lead
don't
this country.
understand English.
They want to turn this country into a dictatorship.
I can
This is not
understand
a
Rahul.
dictatorship.
Like Rahul Gandhi,
This is
you
not a
seem
dictatorship,
frustrated.
Mr. GVL
A
Narsimha Rao.
frustrated
You better
journalist.
shut up. I did
Hello?
not interrupt you, please. Let me speak.
Ashutosh ji, come on. This is
I
not
think you are-
parliament.
No,
This is not parliament. I please implore you, not on my show. We are not going to be discourteous to each other, not on my show. Not on my show. Unparliamentary language will not be allowed. Whoever it is will not be allowed. And I want to bring in Ishkaran Bhandari. The moot question raised by Ashutosh ji is, are we getting into a dictatorship? I'm coming to you, GVL, I'm coming to you. Ishkaran hasn't spoken, I'm coming to you, Ishkaran.
Navika ji, Indira Gandhi imposed under president's rule in 50 states. The emergency was imposed by Indira Gandhi. I have never heard her being called the great dictator, yet Modi is the great dictator. So that is a fact of how media spins it. And why only industrialists? Media also doesn't get to go with the Prime Minister in his plane. That is a departure from the past, which is his choice to make as a Prime Minister. Whether that's good or bad is for the public to judge. As a Prime Minister, he's made that decision. But let us come to the facts of this case. I agree with one thing Mr. Jha said, that the nation is watching the Prime Minister closely. But that is not watching him closely from now. From 2002, they are watching both Mr. Modi as well as Mr. Rahul Gandhi closely. One they have brought to the center in repeat mandates, one they have reduced to 50 seats. Because the nation always watches closely, that is why the nation votes. But let us come to serious issues now. Evidence. There are an n number of judgments of the Supreme Court which says newspaper clippings are not evidence. If the parliament has said the same thing, that's the law of the land. It is not the evidence. Whether it can be used in a debate or not, that is parliamentary rules and however they do it. But what is very instructive is all the time the opposition wants the Prime Minister should speak in Parliament. Whether you agree with him or you disagree with him, when he decides to speak in Parliament, for 83 minutes, you hoot, you heckle, you spoil his concentration, which did not get spoiled because he has fabulous control on his concentration. He does not bhatko here and there. But when you do that, you demean democracy by doing it. You could object to his statements, but to heckle, even on a TV debate, we don't like anybody to heckle. Here is the Prime Minister speaking for 83 minutes and you can't allow him to speak. The nation which wanted to hear him, half of it, I saw it for 5-10 minutes, half of it people couldn't hear because there was so much of heckling going on. So that is very unfortunate for democracy. And the only thing I would say in the end is, if you have issues on Adani and his share price, today, one day, Google lost $100 billion today because of ChatGPT snafo. One day. Whatever Adani has done, you have the courts of this country, Congress and the ecosystem so-called as the best lawyers in the country, in the history of this country. Please go to a magistrate's court or a high court or a Supreme Court, get court orders, force the government, put it on the mat. Please do it with evidence.
Well, Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, the Prime Minister also raised a question about the Nehru surname. Now, I just want to ask, because I was just reading, a book, a famous Swedish author's book, Bertil Falk, who said, Firoz the Forgotten Gandhi. And Falk says, Firoz Gandhi was born in Bombay's Parsi family and his name was Fardoon Gandhi. Ghandy. Now, Dattatreya, जिसका गोत्र हो, वो गांधी कैसे है, ये भी सवाल उठाया. Now, अगर facts पे बात करनी है तो is it time maybe that this fact should also be responded to? I don't know if this Swedish author is right or not, but a Parsi's son
Gandhi
is
was given by Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay. So
Navika, let me tell you something. I mean, to be honest with you, and I come on your debates, have a lot of respect for you and the channel. I think Mr. Modi making such puerile, pathetic, pedestrian comments on surnames and saying that the Gandhi family is exploiting Mahatma Gandhi's surname. I mean, it is beneath my dignity to even comment on it. Mr. Modi may be the Prime Minister, but I expect that office to have some veneer, at least a pretension of some degree of civility.
Well, then many can say, Dr. Sanjay Jha, many can say that he's been called names and so has his late mother.
The Congress hasn't called him. Congress hasn't called him Narendra Adani. If they did, I would have felt upset about it. They haven't called him Narendra Adani.
GVL
They haven't said
Narsimha Rao.
Gautam Modi.
GVL
Let's
Narsimha
draw the
Rao.
line somewhere.
Has the Congress
Let's draw
never
the line
said anything below, that is below the belt for the Prime Minister?
Maybe the Congress should actually.
गंदी नाली का कीड़ा तक तो कह चुके हैं, अब और क्या कहना है?
The comment made
बता
by
दो
the
मोदी जी ने क्या कहा था मिसेस सोनिया गांधी के बारे में?
comment made by the why
New Jersey cow.
Sanjay, why is it a comment below the belt? Is Nehru a bad name? Is it a bad word? Has he asked? Has he given them? Has Prime Minister used any objectionable words? He said you are using surname of Mahatma Gandhi. And that is how you actually that's how you mock people.
Well, let's the debate was about many other things, but certainly that's another issue raised by the Prime Minister. Where that debate goes, I don't know. But as of now, when the Prime Minister speaks for 83 minutes and the opposition, which wants answers from the Prime Minister, doesn't stop hooting or sloganeering, what does the Janata think? What does the public really think? And that's what 2024 is going to be all about. Questions raised by the opposition, and it's very much their right to do so. But when they do so, what happens to the evidence? Is Parliament and is the President's thank you motion the place to do it? Is there going to be another debate on the issue? Well, we'll keep asking and raising those questions, and we'll keep following the answers. But as of today, the Prime Minister seems to have given a befitting reply in his speech in Lok Sabha yesterday and Rajya Sabha today. Will this be the last word? Probably not, because 2024 is around the corner and the opposition is spoiling for a fight. We'll keep our eyes on that. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on this debate.